here. I'll get started. Thank you all for being here. I hope your first presentation was interesting and this isn't the most boring one you go to today. I'm going to try to talk fast so that you have time to experiment at the end on your own, but also not talk too fast because I drank too much coffee. Help me find that balance. Thank you all for being here. I said that already. We're here to talk about Google Scripts and AI. I'm gonna try to explain everything the best I can, but please feel free to jump in with questions or raise your hand. I can stop. In the last session, we went way off track and it actually ended up better. So feel free to jump in. To start, I'll just give you an overview. Number one, that's where we are, the overview. I'm gonna talk about the purpose and kind of what led me to putting this presentation together and doing the stuff that led me to figuring out how to use Google Scripts. Some of the big ideas or the philosophy I've learned as I've experimented with them, what Google Scripts are and what they can do, how to use AI to write Google Scripts and write good prompts for the AI to output good scripts. I'm going to tell you about some projects that I've created and then show you a few examples, and then at the end my goal is to give you guys as much time as I can to experiment, but also not just be like, no, okay, go. And then I'm available for questions. There will be a form at the end for you to put in your email, and then it'll give you instructions for a sample project you can try. And if you want to sign up for more information, I can send more information after. You just check yes on that. So, to start out for the purpose, I'm a psychologist. I don't know if there's any other psychologists in the room, but everyone who works in schools, we all have too much to do and too little time to do it. We all also have things that we would rather do, but we have must-do things that we have to do that take up all our time and stop us from doing the things we want to do. So as we start this presentation, I just want you to think about what are those things that you wish you had more time to do? What would you like to do more of? And then what are the things that take up your time and keep you from doing those things? What are those must-do items? And I ask you to do that because I want you to view this presentation through that lens of how can you knock out these things and automate them so that you can spend more time doing these things. So I'll just give everyone like a minute if you want to write it down or just think about it, to think about what are those things that you would want to automate, and then what are you going to use that time when you get back. So I didn't really know what to call this slide, that's why there's gobbledygook on the top. But the things that I wanted to communicate was large language models like ChatGPT, that's the one I like to use, but Gemini, Magic School, all these AIs, these large language models, they can translate between human language and code. So I don't know how to code really at all, and probably a lot of us don't. But we're all adults and professionals. We know how to read and write and speak and understand English. That's what the AI is there for. It can translate. It can tell the computer to do things if you just tell it in English, and you don't have to know the code or the programming. And I just really want to drive that home because it's easy to get lost in the weed of trying to figure out what the code says, and you don't need to do that at all. Just focus on the language you know and let the AI focus on the computer language. Which brings me to my second point. When you start, there's going to be a lot of failures. You're going to go to ChatGPT or whatever AI you use. It's going to spit out a script. You're going to go to run it, and you're going to get an error code, or it's not going to work, or you're going to accidentally send your principal 300 emails in 30 seconds. That's fine. That's part of the process. I'll try to prevent the 300 emails. I'll show you how to do that, but expect to fail. But just know that once you learn how to troubleshoot and once you know how to engineer a good prompt, that's going to happen less and less, and you're going to have more successes. And once you get to that point, what I've realized is that those failures are transient. It doesn't feel good when you go to run that script and you get an error code, but it passes by quickly. And once you learn how to troubleshoot and write better prompts, you start to get more successes, and those successes accumulate. So as a personal example, the first thing that I used Google Scripts for was to automate scheduling evaluations. In my district, I do between 40 and 50 evaluations a year, and I was spending like 45 minutes to an hour going through my calendar and just putting in each component of the evaluation, times 40 or 50 evaluations a year. So it's taking me weeks of work over the course of the year. Once I succeeded in automating that, I don't do it at all anymore. I just hit a button on a spreadsheet and it does it for me. And I spend 0 time. So I get those 2 or 3 weeks back to do other stuff. Which brings me to this last point, that the automation is exponential. So that was the first project I did. And then I moved on to creating documents from templates. So now I don't have to create documents anymore like report templates or observation forms or PST forms or anything like that. I just click a button and it's done for me. And then I moved on to the writing of the report. And now, where I was spending a day or 2 writing each report, I spend less than an hour usually. So it saves a lot of time and it frees me up to do those things I want to do, which I generally feed back into trying to automate more things. And then it really becomes exponential and you can spend very little time doing the things that you have to do and a lot more time spending on the things you want to do. So just by a show of hands, how many people are familiar with what Google Scripts are or have played around with them at all? In the last presentation, there was 1. Do we have 1? Ah! Do we have 2? 2, okay. Google Scripts are a JavaScript-based language that's built into Google, and they work with the Google Suite. So everything that's in the Google Suite, the spreadsheets, the documents, the slides, calendar, Gmail, forms, it can interact with all of those things, and it can interact across those items as well. So you can have one script that can work on a sheet and a documents and your calendar. So for example, with my evaluations, it can schedule the evaluation, but also create the report and also do all of the other things in different places. This is just kind of a very broad view of what it can do, because really the possibilities are endless. The only limit is your imagination and the amount of time you have to talk to ChatGPT about it, or your preferred AI. And we'll get more into the nitty gritty of this. I just wanted to give you kind of an overview of all of the things that it can do. And also with Google Sheets, a lot of it you can do just in the sheet, and AI is really useful for that too. Scripts is good for a lot of things, but ChatGPT and other AIs can tell you how to write really good formulas in sheets too, and that can do a lot of stuff as well. That was a lot of non-specific words. Okay. As I've been using AI to write Google Scripts, there's a couple of things I've learned along the way, and I wanted to tell you guys those so that you don't make the same mistakes I did. The first one is prompt engineering. That's just a fancy word that the tech nerds use to talk about what do you type into ChatGPT to get the response out that you want. The first thing I want to tell you about is Google IDs. So everything in Google, whether it's a document or a sheet or a calendar, it has an ID that's a unique identifier for Google on the back end to know what the item is that it's interacting with or that you're talking about. And you can find it right here. So there's always going to be a /d/ and then a string of numbers and letters that's pretty long and ends with another slash. So when you go into the AI and you're building your prompt, it really helps to put this ID in, because then you don't have to mess with the code or the program at all yourself. It'll build it in there for you. The other thing is just generally, the more information that you put into your prompt, the better. We all work in schools, we work with kids, we're used to thinking about like, what are they gonna understand? How do I be clear? How do I be engaging? How do I not be repetitive? You don't have to worry about any of that with AI. I encourage you to be nice to it, because it might take over one day, but other than that, give it a lot of information. Even if it's boring, even if it's repetitive, the more that you put in, the better the result you're gonna get on the other side. Troubleshooting, so inevitably, like I said, you're gonna run a script and you're gonna get an error code. The best thing you can do in that situation is just highlight it and copy it and go back to ChatGPT or whatever AI and say, I tried running the script that you wrote, I got an error code, it's this one. 8 times out of 10, it'll say, oh, I made a mistake, here's the corrected code. Sometimes you have to do that 3 times. 99% of the time, by the 3rd try, it'll work, as long as it's not too complicated. And then, again, I just wanted to lean into the natural language input versus coder programming language. We're all experts in English. Give the prompt in English to ChatGPT and let it do the computer language part. If you're interested in it, you can learn about it, but play to your strengths and let it do the stuff that you don't know how to do, because I don't know how to do it either. So some examples of projects I've done, I've talked about some of these already. Creating and individualizing documents and folders from templates. I'll show you a demonstration of this in a few minutes, but for each evaluation, I have a spreadsheet that lists out my evaluation, and my script will go through the names and it'll create a folder for that student. It'll put a template in there of my report, a template of my time on task observation, a template of the feedback form. I used to have it even do a domain and an eligibility notes template. My admin assistant for our department took that over, but it can do that too. And then it goes through those templates, and I just have identifiers, like it'll say student name or his/her for the pronouns, and it'll replace that with the actual correct information. So instead of saying student name, it'll say Susie and her and she and all that stuff. Automated emails is another great thing it can do. So it can automatically send emails and then also generate the content that's in the emails with a Google script, especially when you combine it with a Google Sheet. So some of the things I've used this for is I send myself an email every day and it lists out my evaluations, how many school days until they're due, and some other information. And then it also has an inspirational quote, because that's fun. And then I have a weekly one that goes to my administrators that reviews the level form data or our office referrals. So it tells my principal, assistant principal, and director of student services every Friday at 9 a.m. It actually just sent out. Who was sent to the office that week, how many times they've been sent to the office for the year, what they were sent for, if they need to be PST'd or they've already been PST'd or they already have a behavior plan. All that's in the email, and I don't even have to do anything. It's sent out while I was giving the previous presentation. So there's a lot that you can do there. It can also tell you, for me in the morning email, it tells me what 60 school days from today is, because for me that's a really helpful piece of information to know just walking around. Referral processing, so at my school we have PST. You guys probably have similar things. When a kid has behavior problems, you convene the PST team and talk about them. When a teacher wants to refer a student to PST at my school, they fill out the form and then a script runs and it creates the PST form. It pulls in all their MAP scores, all their Ames Web scores, all of their office referral data, their name, their birthday, all that stuff automatically. And then it emails it to the teacher and says, here's the form, fill in extra data if you want, but everything's already in there. So that's really nice. And then it emails me too, to let me know that the referral's been put in. Data analysis and report generation, it can do that too. I use Sheets a lot more for some of that stuff because I want it to be more specific to the way that I write. So the report generator, I did most of that myself in Sheets just because I wanted it to sound like me and not like ChatGPT. But you can use both scripts and formulas for that. Scheduling calendar events, it can do that, and not just the title of the event and the date and the time. It can also put in notes, it can fill in the description, you can tell it what color you want the event to appear in the calendar. You can have it invite team members. You can have it invite team members specific to who's on that student's team, as long as you have that information in the spreadsheet. This is a fun example. So I was PSTing a 4th grade student, and the teacher, the student has a lot of impulsive behaviors, so the teacher was feeling overwhelmed by writing down not just the behavior, but also the date and the time and the activity and all that stuff. So I went to ChatGPT and I said, I want to write a script so that all the teacher has to do is just type in X, and then it'll log the date and the time and reference her schedule to see what the activity is at that time. And it did it. So then we had this spreadsheet, and all she would do is type X every time he was doing that and hit enter to go to the next row, and it would automatically log the date, the time, and whatever the class activity was based on her schedule. Obviously, you know, that can vary day to day, but. And then generating and sharing student profiles. This is a recent script I've created. I have a master data sheet that imports data across different things. So we have the MAP data, Ames Web data, office referrals, everything from PowerSchool, everything from Embrace, except attendance. It's really hard to do that for some reason, but I'm working on it. And then there's a PDF button I put on there that links to a script. And so when you click that, it converts that information into a PDF, and then it pulls up a staff list, and you can click and send that PDF to the staff that you select. So if you're at a domain meeting, or if you're PSTing a student, or you're just having a team meeting and talking about a student and you want everyone to see their data, I can just click the button and then everyone has that report in their inbox. That's some examples. 20 minutes in, we're doing okay on time. I try not to talk too fast. Any questions so far? Am I going too fast?
I need a whole day training on this. Like
I'm happy to do that. Talk to your administrator. Okay, so now I'm gonna show you some demonstrations, and then I'm gonna give you the rest of the time to kind of play around, and I'll be here for questions, if you wanna show me specific things, or just ask general things, or see more of what I've built. I'm gonna just do the first and the third one. The second one's, I have a problem with it, so. But let me show you this first one, the psych mainframe, and I'm gonna do a little interactive thing here. So, this is my psych mainframe that I've built. A lot of the stuff in here is sheets, and then there's a script that's layered on top of it. So these rows, or these headers at the top are just each step I do for each evaluation. So there's the domain meeting, planning it, sending the rating scales, writing the report, or outlining the report, putting the file review information in, observations, etc. And then you'll see these NAs because there's nothing here, but let's do a few student names. You can see this is what the last group came up with, but call out some student names so I can show you how this works. Just make something up. A famous person. Tyler what?
Grant.
Tyler Grant. Okay, let's do a couple more.
Jenny.
What's that?
Jenny.
Jenny what?
Lopez.
Lopez?
I don't know how many last names you have.
As many as you want. Can we do one more?
Steph Curry.
Steph Curry, let's go. Okay, so for each of these, once I put in the domain date, let's say we met yesterday, because today is not a school day and it knows that, it'll fill in these dates and it calculates forward from the domain date. And then if I scroll over here, it tells me what my 60-day due date is. And once I put in the eligibility meeting, so let's say we want to meet May 11th, that's not a school day, May 12th, then it fills in those dates. And then once I hit this button, it'll go through each of these dates and put them in my Google Calendar. So I don't have to do that at all. I just have to put in the domain and the eligibility meeting date, and then it fills it in. And then you'll see also this folder create button. But before I hit that, I just want to show you where you find the Google Apps. So it's under this extensions header and then apps script. And when you click that, it'll open this interface where all your scripts will be. And this is where you'll paste in whatever the AI spits out. You'll paste it in, you'll hit save, and then you'll hit run. And that'll run the script and execute whatever function you programmed in there, or had the AI program for you. But what you can do is, when you're on the spreadsheet, you can insert an image or a drawing and then link the script to that so that you don't have to open the scripts interface every time you want to run one. So you just go to this insert, and then you can do, I usually do drawing because I'm not a graphic design person, and I just type something to explain what script I'm linking it to. So here you'll see it just says folder create. If you're a graphic design person, you could probably do something cooler than that. But you just insert the drawing and then right click, assign script, and then put in the name of your script, which you can just copy and paste. So that would be here. So if you do that, where you link the script to an image or a drawing, this is what you want to put in there, the name of the function. You just copy that and then paste it, and you'll be good to go. And then I'm going to create the folders. Oops. It doesn't automatically switch the tabs, as you guys can probably tell. So what I did was I hit the folder create button, and then this pops up and says it's running the script, which means that for all of those students that we just put in, Tyler, Jenny, and Steph, it's creating folders for them right now, and then it's putting in those folders the report template, the time on task template, and then the feedback form template. And then I'm gonna pull up those folders to show you. So I'm gonna do the first part really quick because I don't want anyone to see confidential student stuff, and then I'm gonna click into the folder that was created. So you can see it created those folders, and then if you click into them, in each one, it has those documents I talked about. So if we click into the evaluation report draft for Jenny, it created everything. But then what we can do is go back to the site mainframe, and we can run another script once we tell it so Jenny's a female, so we're gonna put F, and then I'm gonna put yes here. This is how you prevent yourself from sending 300 emails to your principal at one time. You can tell the AI in your prompt, I'm gonna have a value in column M. If it's yes, run the script on that row. If it's blank or it says done, it'll then skip that row. That way, every time you run the script, you don't create a new folder for every student or send an email until it maxes out. Anyway, so then once I click this button right here, it's gonna run the script, and then it's gonna pop up a notification when it's done. And when we go back to Jenny's report, you'll see that now, instead of saying student name, it says Jenny. And it replaced all the pronouns with her, because we told it that she's a female. So through the whole report, that's gonna all be correct. Jenny, you can see in red there. Good so far? Any questions? Okay, there's one more thing I want to show you, and then I'm going to give you the rest of the time to experiment. This is actually not a script, this is my report generator. And everything in here is just done with Google Sheets. So in each tab I have a different instrument. This is the tab for the Connors. Is everyone familiar with the Connors rating scale somewhat? They at least know that it's a thing? Okay, so let's just pick one of the measures. What's going to be elevated? What does our students struggle with?
Hyperactivity.
Hyperactivity? Okay. So for the Connors, 50 is a normal score, 70 is a clinically elevated score. So let's just say it's 50 for everything except hyperactivity. They're just, and then we'll just copy and paste those. Let's say everyone came up with the exact same scores. The inter-rater reliability was really good. Then it just spits out down here their strengths and their areas for growth based on that pattern of scores. So in terms of strength, there was average scores on these scales, and this is what that meant, all respondents. And then in terms of areas for growth, the hyperactivity subscale was elevated. There were 3 clinically significant scores, and this pattern of scores indicates that Jenny has difficulty when it comes to regulating her activity level. It doesn't say Jenny because I didn't put her name in on this spreadsheet, and it's a different one, but it would. And then all I have to do is go ahead and copy and go back to Jenny's report, scroll down to the Connors, and then I can paste in that write-up, and I've just written the Connors. And I can do that for each of the measures that are on the report generator. The Connors, the brief, the ASRS, BASC, Wyatt. It can also import those district assessments, so all the map data and Ames Web data. It can write an educational history based on the data in Grace and Power School. It can do the demographic info, so the gender, student ID, all that stuff. And then there's a little bit of copying and pasting, but even that could be automated with a script. I just haven't had a chance to do it yet. Any questions? Complaints? I can share some of it. So in a minute, I'm gonna put up a QR code where you can put in your email. And then after the presentation is over today, I'll send out some resources to everybody with some of the basic stuff. And then feel free to email me back if you have other questions or there's other things that you're curious about, or if you want your school to bring me in for a PD or something.
As you move on to another student, then are you just deleting your scores on that one and then just reusing this?
I've tried it 2 ways. Right now, I'm just using the master sheet and deleting it each time. I did before have it create a unique one for each student. It just didn't feel the most efficient because then I had them sitting there in the folders taking up space, and Google Drive has a very high limit, but a limit. And so if I decided to just use the master one, but you could do it either way. Any other questions?
So you said you created the script, you created the meat of this so that it was your words and
Yes,
then-
let me show you how that works. Because it's really not that complicated. A lot of these are just simple formulas where it's either counting the number of elevated scores, so just if they're higher than 59, and then a lot of these are if statements. So if the number of elevated scores is greater than half the number of scores, yes, otherwise this is yes for majority average. And then it's just a bunch of if statements that feed into, and then I have some sentence starters and explanation starters, and then it just combines all of that into a sentence. So I just built a bank down here of like some sentence starters that I was pretty much writing report over report. And then now I don't have to type each of those individual letters, I can just copy and paste the sentence that it puts together.
Do you have a sample prompt that you put into AI to give us an idea of how, if we put it into AI, to then yield this?
I can pull that up for you. I can actually show you the prompt that I put in to create the form, or the script. So that you're not all just watching me, let me put up the QR code. So this will pull up the form, and it'll show you an example of you can pick from 2 projects to try out, and it'll walk you step by step on how to do that. One is to create a document from a template, and then the other one is to create an automatic email. So, I'll give you guys a second. And I'll put this back up, but let me just show you the prompt. So I went into ChatGPT this morning to create the script that goes with this form. So I said, I want to create a Google script with the ID, and that's the spreadsheet that's going to receive their form responses, as I told it. Column B contains the email address because it timestamps it, and then your email address is in column B. And then column D, because that's the 3rd question, contains the options. I changed it from 3 down to 2. So then when each person submits the form, I want an email to be generated with the subject line script project instructions, and in the body of the email, I want it to contain a link to a Google Doc. If they select this option, this link, this option, this link, and then it spit out this script. I copied and pasted it into the script editor. And then, I don't know if anyone has submitted the form yet, but if you did, you should see in your inbox that you'll get exactly that, the email with that subject line and then the link corresponding with the options. And I tested it, so hopefully it works, but if it doesn't, yeah, let me know. And again, if you want to select yes on that 2nd question, I can send out resources and stuff afterwards. I'm happy to share a lot of this stuff for free because I think it's really cool. And I don't know when the next session starts because this was my last one. But the rest of the time is yours to experiment, and I'm here to answer any questions or talk about anything, or if you want to see anything in more detail, I can show you. Otherwise, the time is yours. And thank you all.
Thank you.